I'm always playing around with different approaches to planning and motivation. And today I wanted to talk to you about how I've moved away from more traditional setting of goals when I plan my months and more towards setting intentions instead for my monthly planning. I think goals absolutely have a place in how people motivate themselves and how you can make sure your business stays on track. They can be a really helpful tool, and I'm not here to debate that or say you shouldn't have goals. But personally, I've moved away from having set goals for a month or a time period and more into setting intentions for a set month or time period. So why is this? Because for me, setting intentions feels a little bit softer, more fluid, and more expansive instead of that rigid like checkbox, or I must do 12 of these, or I have to hit X of that. It just feels much more playful and like I have space to really experiment and to play around with how I'm motivated and how I'm approaching routines and tasks throughout my business and life. Right now, I'm just in a season of life that I want more of that flexibility. I want more of that expansiveness. And honestly, it's probably also part of who I am, part of how I operate best, because when structures get too rigid, my brain tends to be like, nope, rebel. For example, when I go to the gym, I don't mind when we have stations and it's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. However, once you say you have to do 10 of these or 20 of these, I I lose all motivation. Like I don't want to have to do it. So that was like a big indicator to me, like maybe having those more rigid goals and metrics wasn't really helping me move throughout my months. But when the structure is a little bit looser, a little bit more flexible, then I feel like I have room to experiment, explore, and shift gears when I need to, and work more in rhythm as opposed to routines. So really, and when I say like setting intentions versus setting goals, goals to me feels like kind of like SMART goals, specific, measurable, metric driven, having those check boxes, 10 of these, 5 of these, whatever. Whereas intentions feel more like an area to focus on, a guiding light, and just like, hey, I'm going to make sure that I'm focusing time and attention on X area of my business and life instead of doing 5 days of this or 10 days of this or doing this thing X number of times. It's more like I'm going to focus on doing things in this area in this way. Intentions really help me narrow my focus and make sure that I am prioritizing certain areas throughout the month. And because they don't feel so restrictive, I feel way more motivated and inspired and not boxed in by those have-tos. So instead of feeling like it's an obligation, I feel like it's an opportunity to play. Now, that might work for me and it might not work for you. We're all wired a little bit differently. And I think there's definitely times and there's definitely people who having those crystal clear targets helps them stay motivated. It helps them stay focused. It helps them stay on track. They love checking those boxes off. Now, I love to check a box off too. However, I have really noticed boxes are good for me when it comes to project management or getting a project done. It's not so good for me when I'm planning out my months, my weeks, and my days. If you're like me and you find yourself overwhelmed by too many check boxes or too many metrics and too much structure, then you may consider doing this alternative method and embracing setting intentions instead of setting goals for your planning purposes. So again, intentions are more just like, I'm going to prioritize and focus my time on this particular area, as opposed to that more specific, measurable, metric, goal-oriented way to help keep yourself motivated and focused throughout your month or whatever time frame. But different brains, different seasons, different strategies. Again, it's not that I have totally given up goals or I don't think metrics work or anything like that. Setting intentions is just an alternative way to look at how to keep yourself motivated and focused as you move through your day to day. And if you want to see that in action and see how I set my monthly intentions, I do have a breakdown of how I have set some intentions for this month, and that's in my newsletter, and you can sign up for that below, plus get a little worksheet if you want to go through setting intentions as opposed to goals for yourself. So I have that example available if you sign up for my newsletter. And then, of course, if you sign up for the membership, you get that plus a whole lot more when it comes to approaching all things just a little bit differently and a little more you. Find information about the membership or sign up for the newsletter below.